So his accounts on three of China's largest social media sites, that is Weibo, which is a Twitter-like platform, and Bilibili, which is the Chinese equivalent of YouTube, and also Douyin, which some have called, the sister app of TikTok, but it's essentially the original version of TikTok used by those in China. So his accounts were suspended on Monday on these three social media platforms, but it may have well been a temporary suspension because this is not the first time that Uncle Roger ran into trouble with China. So 2 years ago in 2021, he actually posted a video featuring Mike Chen, a fellow YouTube star who has been quite vocal about his criticism over Beijing's treatment of its Uyghur minorities in Xinjiang, as well as the 2021 national security law in Hong Kong. And Uncle Roger actually took down that video from his YouTube channel and issued an apology to his Chinese fans, saying that the clip had created a bad social impact. And at that time, he was actually criticized for indulging in self-censorship. So he is clearly aware of the sensitivity of his Chinese fans, as well as the restrictive environment in China. And actually, yesterday I've used the Chinese search engine Baidu, and I did a search on him, and his Baidu profile page, which is sort of our equivalent of the Wikipedia profile page, is still intact, and there are still posts about him on Xiaohongshu, which is an Instagram-like app favored by China's Gen Z.
So it probably does indicate, though, that this might have been a temporary suspension and he's just sort of getting a warning from Chinese authorities.
Yes, absolutely. But what's really interesting about Uncle Roger's case is that he only posted this clip on his Twitter and Instagram account. This clip did not appear on his Chinese social media accounts. And, and I strongly suspect that it's the date associated with this clip that played an even bigger role in his cancellation. So this clip is actually taken from his most recent stand-up tour, and this tour is available for streaming from the 4th of June, which, as everyone knows, is the anniversary of the crackdown in Tiananmen Square in 1989. So even if he hasn't been making fun of Xi Jinping, I think if you put anything related to China next to this highly sensitive date, it will get your account suspended. Had it been a different date, he might only been the target, and I use the word only in a strictly comparative sense. He might only been the target of Chinese nationalistic trolling. I'm sure you remember what happened to He Huang, a Chinese-Australian comedian who went viral after performing at Australia Got Talent. And, in her stand-up act, she also touched on some sensitive topics, including the origins of COVID-19. And, she also later became the target, the subject of cyberbullying by Chinese nationalistic trolls and bots. And compared to Uncle Roger, she had to face a much severe backlash from audiences in China.
Yeah. Of course, comedians within China are also facing censorship. A comedian just recently was arrested for making a joke about the Chinese military.
Yes, so this comedian who told the joke about the military is called Li Haoshi, and he's better known by his stage name House. So on the 13th of May, in a live performance, he told this unscripted joke about, how seeing two stray dogs chasing a squirrel reminded him of this slogan, forge good discipline, fight to win battles, 作风优良，能打胜仗. This slogan was actually first used by Xi Jinping a decade ago to describe the People's Liberation Army. And since then, it has been closely associated with the Chinese military. So even though filming wasn't allowed at that live performance, someone in the audience recorded this joke and later posted on social media with condemning messages saying how it's really offensive to use a slogan associated with the Chinese military, and to describe two stray dogs, and how House is actually defiling the sacred image of the PLA. And as a consequence of this, he is facing much dire consequences than Uncle Roger. Not only were his accounts suspended, he's barred from basically ever performing again in the foreseeable future. And despite issuing an official apology saying that he's very regretful and guilty about the joke he told, he is likely to spend some time in prison under the very controversial 2021 law, which criminalized those who insult the army as well as its veterans.
I'm interested, Annie, to know what place comedy has in China. Is it going to be a loss for people if it is being curtailed like this?
Yes, I think absolutely. I think, performers in China have always had to work under a restricted environment. It's quite surprising that stand-up comedy has really taken off in the last few years. But ever since the House incident occurred, another video actually went viral online, and this video features an interview with an older Chinese comedian by the name of Chen Peisi. And in this viral interview, Chen, who was born in the 1950s and grew up during the Cultural Revolution, a time where no comedy was allowed on radio or TV, he was telling his experience of performing in Chinese countryside in the early 1980s, at the beginning of the reform and opening up period, and how no one would actually laugh at his jokes because they haven't been exposed to comedy for more than 2 decades, and that they thought it would be rude or even politically incorrect to laugh at someone performing on stage. And towards the end of that interview, Chen actually says, let's never return to the time where people don't know how to laugh. And that has since, this sentence has since caught on with many reposting and sharing this particular sentence. It's very sad that people in China think that the country is returning to a time where people don't know how to laugh again.
Yeah, a world without laughter is very sad. Annie, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.